Hi everyone, it's Charlie Webster here. Thanks for joining us for My Sporting Mind, where I talk to sports stars about everything to do with mindset and mental health. We're proudly supported by sportinglife.com, expert insight, passionate opinion, and in-depth analysis for the sports you love, all for free, which is nice. Today on the podcast, I'm delighted to welcome the Bath and England rugby star, Anthony Watson.
Lovely round of applause, thank you.
Yeah, I know, but it just feels like it's just me, but I'm giving you a round of applause. That's the thing when you do. I was in an event the other day and I was clapping and then realised that no, obviously everybody was watching me. And anyway, how have you been doing? Enough about me and my clapping. How have you been?
Yeah, all good. No problems. Just been same old really. We're lucky that we're able to play and train and stuff like usual. So, not too much is different for us. Obviously, not having fans and stuff is a bit strange still. But apart from that, we've been cracking on pretty much as normal. So it's not been too different.
How have you approached this year? Because I think there's been some people who've been like 2021, and then some people are just still doing, look, it's a day at a time, especially given that you've got the Six Nations and then potentially the Lions series in July, obviously COVID permitting.
Yeah. I think to be fair, you can't really, especially like you said, with how things are now, in terms of games getting cancelled left, right, and centre. You're not knowing whether tournaments are going ahead. Don't know whether like the Lions series are going ahead. It highlights even more how you have to just take it each game as it comes and each day as it comes, really, because you might be preparing for a game on Saturday and then you find out on Tuesday that you've tested positive or some of your teammates have, and then the game can't go ahead.
Yeah.
So like there's so many variables and so many changing factors right now that it's very difficult to prepare too far in advance or get caught up thinking too far ahead because there's so much that can change so quickly. Um, so I guess it's kind of highlighted to me a little bit of something that I'd already tried pretty heavily to focus on and just taking things chunk by chunk as opposed to looking massively far ahead and then getting consumed by worrying about something that you can't really control yet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what it's just kind of highlighted and made more sense of something that I'd kind of focused on a little bit more previously.
Does that come from the fact that you've had injuries in the past
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
where you've had to basically take that time out almost a bit like now?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, my Achilles injury was probably like one of the biggest turning factors in terms of my mindset and stuff. And on the subject, we're talking about taking things piece by piece. With an Achilles injury, you can't do anything before you can do a certain thing. You've got to jump through hoops basically to get to where you want to get to. And previously with injuries in the past, that I just sacked that off. I was like, oh, no, I'll be fine. Like, for example, when I hurt my foot when I was just out of school, you've got this kind of false sense of security that you're like, I'm Superman type thing. They say I'll be out for 6 months, I'll be back playing in 4. So I was just the first 3 months I couldn't do anything, and then after that I just rushed through all the rehab like ridiculously so to the point that I was back training and running and stuff with a limp, which is ridiculous. But I've said I was fine because I wanted to play. But it kind of highlighted to me, looking back now, the fact that I was looking so far ahead, just rushing to get back as my first year of professional rugby, rushing to get back and be playing with the lads and training with the lads, that I didn't take care of what was in front of me that could have helped me better towards the end of that rehab. So with the Achilles, especially the fact that it went twice, it meant that I had to be very focused on making sure that everything was right in the short term before I could worry about the long term and get back to playing. That goal was always there, obviously, but without the stuff, the little pieces day in, day out, you can't get to where you want to get to. So, that was a big turning factor for me in terms of that stuff. But the Achilles injury probably affected my whole outset to rugby and life in general. To be fair, it was just like a bit of a wake up call.
Do you think, I mean, by the way, I was smiling a little bit when you said about your foot injury, because I'm very much that type of personality.
Yeah.
It's almost hard to balance the expectation that your mind puts on your body to what your body's able to do. Do you find that?
Yeah, and I think getting that connection is a massive thing. Like not getting too upbeat or downbeat, sorry, on yourself. if you can't handle something one day. So for example, if you haven't recovered properly, and using the Achilles example again, if my calf hadn't recovered properly the day after, not getting too downbeat on myself, just needing an extra day, that's it. Like, it's not the end of the world. But sometimes your mind can race and you're like, oh, well, if I can't train tomorrow, then it pushes everything back, and then I'm going to be back 1 week later than I was. And it's not that deep, it's not that important. What's important is making sure your injury and what you're focusing on is right before you move on to anything else. Whereas, like you said, I was very much like, oh, no, 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 no. And it would be a whirlwind of like, knock-on effects, which you shouldn't really be too worried about.
Do you think, in a weird way, it's made you a better rugby player with the fact that you've gone through? I mean, the Achilles injury has been well reported. It was in 2018. You ruptured your Achilles, and then you tore it again after coming back, and then you were out for around 12 months.
Yeah.
Do you think? I mean, it's hard. I don't know. I think sometimes it's hard to go, oh yeah, that was for the good and it made me a better blah, blah, blah. But do you think there's things you can learn from it? You're talking about how much your mindset's changed since then.
Yeah, I mean, it was the best experience of my life. Like, to be out for 13 months was terrible, but the amount of learning and stuff that I picked up on in those 13 months, I kind of wouldn't change for the world in the same way, which is a bit of a cliche, but I think anyone else who's been on a journey similar will understand what I mean by that. And it's like, for me anyway, it was just a perspective change in terms of, first of all, I realized how much I depended on rugby for like my happiness, and how much I actually really loved the game and loved being able to go and train with my teammates and kind of like commit to or help contribute to a common goal type thing, that we were all pushing to try and win the Premiership, and then guys would go away with England, and obviously those guys are all winning and stuff. You want to be a part of that. So from that perspective, in terms of how much the game meant to me, that was one of the first things. The second thing was just in terms of nothing coming easy, in terms of, like we said, taking things day by day, but also within those days you've got to wake up and be very focused on what you're trying to achieve that day, and just fully commit to it. There are some dark days, but I found anyway, when you can commit and do what you're meant to do on those dark days, everything else becomes so much easier. So that consistency was massive. And the last thing was just around kind of remembering, or finding out in those periods where it was tough, who was still around and who was still checking up on you, and who was still kind of in your corner. You kind of find out who your mates are really when you're out of the limelight, or out of playing for 13 months, because some boys don't want anything to do with you. Some boys forget about you completely, and then there are other guys who are checking up on you weekly, asking if you need anything, need any help. So it kind of, again, highlights who your real friends are, or it did anyway for me.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to that. You said about those dark days, what would go through your mind, and what, I know you said about your friends and family that were around you that helped you. What in your own head, what was the kind of conversation that helped you go, yeah, this is a dark day, but I need to do XXX to get where I want to be?
Yeah, it was actually a conversation with my old man. Like, I remember, without going into too much detail, basically I had a tough day of rehab where I thought I was progressing really well, but then the way in which I was actually achieving what I was achieving was incorrect, if that makes sense. I don't want to go into too much detail because it's kind of unnecessary. So that kind of set me back, and I was like, oh my God, like I can't actually do what I thought I'd been doing for this long. So I'm back basically another 6 weeks. And I just remember, like, it was on one of those Smith machines, and I was just sat there, and I was like, I just got to go home now, because like I can't sit here, like my mind's racing. I'm thinking, Jesus, I'm not going to be able to play rugby again. What happens if I can't play rugby again? What am I going to do? This, that, and the other. Then I got in my car and I drove home, and I actually had to pull over, and just like kind of compose myself a little bit. And anyway, after that, I just called my old man, and I was like to him, mate, I don't know if I can do this much longer. Like my head's going, like I'm not progressing how I thought I would. This is the second time my Achilles is ruptured again. What happens if it goes again? He was like, mate, do you want to play rugby again? I was like, obviously, like, what kind of a stupid question is that? But then, you know, you've got to commit to it and just keep going. And I was like, I mean, like, I was distraught at the time, and he put it so black and white for me. It was like, Jesus, yeah, like, not a slap in the face, but it was like, you know, when you splash yourself in the face with water and you just reset. It was like that. I was just reset and I was ready to go again, which is so weird from such a basic comment. But I think, you know, just the fact who it came from, it being my old man and him being straight talking and stuff, and that kind of is what meant more than the message itself, I guess. So yeah, that was the conversation that really put me back on the right path. And, you know, I don't want to say like I was proper. I wasn't depressed at all or anything like that. I had probably 3 or 4 dark days in the 13-month period where I had Achilles rupture, another Achilles rupture, and I tore my quad. So, like, you know, I think 3 days out of, what would that be, like 380 odd, is pretty good going.
But it kind of almost made you question, just for that second question, like, oh my God, whether am I going to be able to be or do what I want to do?
Exactly. Yeah. No, that was the conversation that really just kind of brought it all back to reality and made me get back to what I was doing and trying to be consistent again.
You said that it made you realize how much you love rugby. Do you think it's also taught you that is it made you think, oh, I need other things as well because I can't pin everything on rugby, or is it made you more focused on rugby? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No, I think it's the reason why I ask you is because I've had so many different conversations with sports people who've all said, you know, that sometimes it's almost meant too much, that when there's a bad time, like an injury or say a result hasn't gone their way, that they then find it difficult to cope because everything hangs on that.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. I don't know. I did do some stuff whilst I was injured that helped in terms of, like, I did a degree and stuff.
I did a degree and stuff.
Well, I started it. I just finished it the other
What
day.
degree did you do?
I did a degree in leadership and management at Northumberland.
Oh, nice. You made the most of your time then.
I'll be honest, actually. Someone told me to start a master's first. So I started a master's first, and it was terrible. I hadn't done any education since school. So what's that like? It must have been seven odd years, yeah. And I tried to go straight into a master's, and I was sat there, and then I realized that there was like exams and all this stuff. I was like, oh my, there's no way. I was like writing pages and pages of notes, and I was like, there's no chance I can do this. Let me go one stage back. So I did undergraduate first.
That's kind of the normal way around.
Yeah, exactly. Probably should have listened to some advice that I was given. But yeah, no, that definitely helped, to be fair. But I don't know. I don't know. I feel like, you know, the results thing I can probably explain a little bit better, but just in terms of, yeah, it can become very, if you care too much, it can become very easy to become bogged down in a bad result or bad performance or something. But for me anyway, the last year, those kind of experiences have helped me loads in terms of trying to make them into something positive. So, you know, if you play really badly, trying to take out of the game what was positive in terms of, like, now I've got an opportunity and I've been exposed in an area where I know I need to get better. And now I can show people how much I care by them seeing how hard I'm going to work at being better in that area. Do you see what I'm saying? So I think, yeah, you can definitely get too bogged down in caring too much, but I also think that it's very important for me personally anyway to care as much as I do about my sport, because at least when I'm done with rugby, I can be happy knowing that I gave absolutely everything to it.
I think it takes so much strength as well. And you were saying, you know, being exposed in an area where it's almost like you're a sponge and you're going to learn from that to make yourself better. Whereas some people almost can't deal with what's a positive criticism. Do you think?
Yeah. You see it across the board really in rugby. There's all kinds of varying personalities, and there's no right or wrong way. To be fair, everyone's got their own way of dealing with stuff like that. But I just, that's how I respond to it, and it's helped me a lot in terms of feeling terrible for Saturday and Sunday after the game, but then when Monday comes around or Tuesday comes around, at least I'm committed then to making sure that I don't feel like I did on Saturday, Sunday again.
Yeah.
So my whole focus will be for the next week is to keep that in the back of my mind. I don't want to feel like that again. So I'm going to make sure that everything I do Monday to Friday is to stop me feeling like that again. And that helps me. It might not help other people because, on the flip side, I completely understand that it might, get people bogged down in worry and stuff. But it's something that's definitely helped me.
I read something that you said. You said, I love people doubting me. Why? And that it helps spur you on. And again, I think that's something I can relate to.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I've been that way since I was pretty young. Whenever my dad or my brother said I couldn't do something, it was like, lovely. Right now, I'm going to have to try.
Let me show you.
Yeah. I'm going to do everything within my power to prove you wrong. So I don't know. That's always kind of, been there for me in terms of trying to prove people wrong. I can't really explain any more than that, to be honest with
you. Do you have like full kind of confidence in yourself, in your own ability?
No, not all the time. No, there's definitely times where you have to take a back step and you're like, yeah, I think everyone goes through a bit of self-doubt. It would be kind of inhumane, I think, to not have that.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's just controlling that. And I worked with a sports psychologist called Don McPherson, who helped me so much. Like in the early days of my career, the self-doubt would be like awful. Like I was so nervous before games, I didn't want to play. And he helped me so much in terms of putting a lot of reliance on my training week and that giving me the confidence to go into the weekend, but also realizing that this is what I love doing. So why was I going to let this voice in the back of my head, which is just like, which he puts it as, like the monkey type thing. How are you going to let that affect your performance and affect your feelings as much as you are, to the point where you're not enjoying the thing that you love the most? So, having him and working with him changed that whole kind of feeling I had towards games and feeling nervous, or that self-doubt that you talk about. But it's, it still comes back here and there and you still get it, of course. But it's just about managing that and controlling it as best as you can, and realizing what it is and what it's there for and what it's doing to kind of protect you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does completely. I think it's normal that it's there sometimes. And I think it's such a good way of putting it, where it comes in sometimes to try and protect you from getting hurt, right? But actually, at the same time, it can limit your potential.
Yeah, 100%.
So Don McPherson, my coach, and you were talking about the monkey. He's called the monkey whisperer, right? Is that true?
I can't remember what he calls himself, to be honest with you.
It's the monkey whisperer.
Yeah, something like that.
Can you talk us through a bit about that concept, the monkey?
Yeah, it was similar to what I was saying, in terms of, that voice in the back of your head. So I know some people put it as, like the devil and the angel type thing, but that's very different. The chimp is kind of just like, or the monkey is kind of like your subconscious mind is there to kind of protect you, like we were saying just there. So, like, let's just use the example of a goal kicker in rugby. So they're going to line up a kick and then they're thinking, oh, what if I miss this kick? What's going to happen? And then you go, like I said, into that spiral of thinking of all these consequences. And that's kind of the monkey working to kind of, I guess, protect you, or think of the consequences of something negative going wrong, or something negative happening. So, like I said, how he worked with me best was just about managing that as much as possible. So sometimes whenever I got them early on in my career, this is 3-4 years ago, he used to call them goofy thoughts, which kind of just was like, all right, it's just there. Do you know what I mean? Just acknowledge it's there and that's it. Put it away after that. And for me, that helped loads. Just like, I'll acknowledge it, but it's not going to happen. And that kind of gave me a lot of confidence and also made me trust that kind of monkey, as he put it, was there just to protect you, and it wasn't really a reflection of you as a person,
Yeah.
and her real thoughts. So, that kind of was the basis of it.
Yeah, because I think as humans we're programmed to think negative. What if all the time, or what if, and kind of almost like add that doubt into ourselves. But I think it's a really nice way to put it in terms of like protection. So do you get nervous anymore for games? I remember speaking to Courtney Laws actually in our first season, and he said no, he doesn't get nerves anymore. Is it natural to you, or do you think nerves is good when you've got?
I get them here and there. Sometimes I'll get them, sometimes I won't. And the big thing for me now is when I do get them, acknowledging they're there, and when I don't get them, acknowledging they're not there. Do you know what I mean? And just
Yeah.
accepting whatever it is what it is, and just moving on to it, and then just focusing on what I need to do to get ready and what I need to do to be confident going into the game. And again, going back to what I was saying earlier, just trusting that my week's preparation has given me everything I need to do to go into this game confident, and not worrying too much about nerves. Because, undoubtedly you've played some great games with nerves, and you played some great games without nerves. So what difference does it make? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's the amount of games you've played across, from being a kid all the way through. There's so many varying emotions that you would have had going into games. You would have had some good games and some bad games with either of those emotions or any of those emotions. So to say that nerves before a game is going to affect my performance, or having no nerves is going to affect my performance, it doesn't really correlate for me anymore, just because there's been so many varied experiences with both. So
How much does the mind come into play in rugby? Because we see the tough, resilient physicality side, but not always the mental side.
um, I think it's huge. I think it's probably the most underappreciated asset for any sportsman across the board. Not just, how they respond to setbacks or stuff like that, but also how they prepare for games. And that's another area that I focused heavily on with Don. Was, he makes these MP3s for some of his athletes. There's kind of like a guided meditation thing that we do before games that allows us to feel a lot more confident and relaxed prior to a game. Um, and yeah, that's a massive thing for me. It's helped loads. But in terms of, the resilience and stuff like that, I think it obviously plays a massive part. There's no two ways about it. But for me, that the area that is most underappreciated is using mental skills to assist performance, but also preparation for performance.
Yeah. Is that something you learned from the World Cup in 2019 as well? Is it something you applied to that? Because that's such a big stage for you to be on, and the limelight, it was a huge
Yeah, what do you mean, the
limelight. I
nerves and
remember
stuff?
watching it and everybody was talking about it.
What do you mean, the nerves and stuff like that? Is that what you mean? Sorry.
Yeah, just in how you applied your mind to that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the whole week of the World Cup, I was thinking, I was my mindset was very focused on, this is what I prepared my whole life for. Um, so there's no way that I was going to go into that game feeling that I was underprepared, or I was undercooked, or thinking, what if this, what if that. I was very focused on get my preparation right Monday to Friday, going to the game, having prepared well, and trusting that you've prepared well, not just this week actually, but for your whole life really, and just go out there and enjoy it. Like, this is what you've wanted to do since you were a kid, and now you've got the opportunity. So you've just got to go out there and throw your best foot forward at it, or put your best foot forward. So that's what I tried to do. Unfortunately, the way that the game was, it was a terrible experience. But again, you've got to learn from it. And what I learned from that was that finals are a completely different game to semi-finals. And you can never leave anything out there in a final. I think I've been to like 4 or 5 finals, and I hadn't won any. So it kind of again highlighted to me the importance of winning. And that's why I've been very focused on trying to win something with Bath this year and last year, and fallen short. But it's my commitment to trying to do that has remained the same.
How did you pick yourself up after Japan? Because I remember speaking to George Ford and Ben Youngs probably about 2 or 3 months after, and obviously it came up in topic of conversation because it had to, which I felt really bad about actually. And they said that they found it hard going back to club rugby after such a high and then such a low.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, I think after the World Cup, I came back in first game back for Bath, I got injured. so then I was out for 3 weeks or 4 weeks.
Did that make it worse because you had to mull over what happened?
No, I was pretty. Not that I've said it before. I'll say it again. I don't think I'll ever get over the final because it was such an unbelievable opportunity for us that we failed to do or failed to achieve. Our goal that we set out to do was failed. So, for me, it's not something that I'll ever get over. But I've said I'll use it as much as I can as an advantage and try and get the understandings from that experience as much as I can. So, like I said, in terms of finals rugby. In terms of making the most of all those opportunities you get, the importance of winning at that type of stuff has all kind of stemmed from that final or been enhanced from that final. So it's definitely helped me as much as, again, it was similar to the Achilles. It was the best worst experience.
I think that's what I'm going to take from chatting to you. But I think so many people can relate to those things, no matter whether you're a professional sports person or not. There's so many times in everybody's life, I think, where you're like, that was horrific, but it changed me, or I learned from it. And then you can see hopefully where it moved you in life. Do you look, it's a while away, but do you look ahead to the next World Cup 2023? Is it something that's in your mind or the back of your mind?
I wouldn't say it's at the back of my mind. Whenever you end up talking about a World Cup, you think about hopefully or potentially getting another opportunity to win it. So it's definitely there. I wouldn't say it's something that I think about regularly. But I would love to have another crack at winning a World Cup with England because, like I said, after falling at the final hurdle, it hurts. So I would love to be able to do one better, but it's a long way away. And if you don't focus on playing well for Bath every week and trying to win something with Bath, then you're not going to get the other few bits that you want. And then you've got to play well. You've got to pick for England. You've got to play well for England. You've got to play consistently well for England. And then, you've got to do that for another 3 years. So, those are you've got to take it little by little. Otherwise it gets, like we said, the whole conversation, you can turn it into a whirlwind and then you're lost again.
Yeah, it's a bit like what you're saying with your injuries. Whatever your goal is, you've got to break that down, and whatever that goal is, break that one down. So it's bit by bit. Who do you say has been like the most inspiration on you, or somebody that's guided you in terms of your career?
Don McPherson is definitely one, obviously, because of how much he changed my outlook and mindset in relation to rugby. I've been lucky enough to work with some coaches for like quite a lengthy period. So a guy at the club at Bath at the moment called Neil Hatley was my coach when I was first in the academy at London Irish. So I was 14, and I've worked with him pretty much every year, give or take one or two, up till now. So he's definitely been someone that's always been in my corner and always willing to help me. George's dad actually was another massive one. Mike Ford was massive for me when I first joined Bath. Helped me so much in terms of, he gave me so much confidence to play. Every time and this is when I was struggling with nerves, every time I was playing, he used to come up to me and say, I'd pay £20 to come watch you play today. And every time I just burst out laughing, and just that little bit of laughter just breaks down a little bit of that nervous energy you've got. So he helped me a lot. But I'd say that the most.
I was going to say you were so young when you started.
Yeah. I mean, 19. I was at Bath, and like I said, my nerves were through the roof. So having both Neil Hatley and Mike Ford there helping me was huge. But the most inspirational and like the person I rely on the most. It's probably my old man. Just, you know, he's probably inspired me the most to this day, and he's who I aspire to be most like. So, you know, I'd probably say him.
It sounds like you've got an amazing relationship. What did he say anything to you after the World Cup final?
Nah, not that
Say
one.
text message or a phone saying, look, son, if you want to play rugby, get on with it.
Crack on. You got to get back on the horse. Nah, he didn't, to be fair. I think he was just as gutted as everyone else was. I don't think there was anything he could have said in that moment in time really that would have changed much. But it's more seeing how he goes about, how he works and how he does things and how he is with people really that makes me want to emulate him more than anything else. So I guess that's why he's my biggest inspiration.
Now, how much of an influence has Eddie Jones had on you?
Yeah, he's been massive as well. He gives me a lot of confidence to play as well. He always says to me to go out there just and enjoy myself and do what I do, and that helps massively. You know, in terms of international rugby, there's so many nuances to it. When it's broken down as simply as he can do it for you, it makes all the difference. And like I said, he gives me that confidence, so that helps.
I was going to ask you as well, what role do you play in the changing room? I was like, make sure you ask him. I'm always intrigued by that and the dynamic.
Yeah, I try and just be myself. And to be honest with you, a lot of the time now it's being very happy and jokey and laughy. Eddie, going back to him, he always makes a joke at me before a game. I don't know what he says sometimes. He just says some random stuff. It makes me laugh, and we always end up having, you know, a bit of a chuckle before the game.
Like what? Can you remember anything? Not like the I'll pay to watch you play.
No, it wasn't like that.
I'm
trying to think what he said to me. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he's got some mad nicknames from me. So sometimes he'll just walk past me and shout these nicknames at me, and they make me laugh. So, for example, he used to call me Maserati. And then there would be one day where, you know, my GPS or something's bad and he'd call me a Daihatsu or a Daewoo or something, or really like kind of more budget car. So he kind of just mixes that up. It's just right. Sometimes he's called me a tractor. He's just funny.
Maserati to a tractor.
Sorry?
From a Maserati to a tractor.
In the space of days or sometimes hours. But he's just hilarious. Like, he cracks me up, and like I said, that helps me before kickoff. But I'm always listening to my music as well. Like up until literally before the captain gets everyone together for the last, you know, like 20 seconds, my headphones are on. Recently, without the fans and stuff, I've been warming up with my headphones on, just because, you know, there's very little going on out there in terms of noise and stuff. So just listening to my music helps me kind of just focusing on what I'm trying to do. And kind of, it helps me kind of, I guess, get in the zone a little bit. You know, just get absorbed by the music, and next thing you know, everything's just flowing nicely. So that's why I do it. But yeah, it helps.
Yeah, I can imagine it's so important to have a laugh, like you were saying with Eddie before, because I think it just must calm everything down. But also, music's so powerful. So finally, before I let you go, what piece of advice? I know we've talked a lot about breaking things into small pieces and about the kind of voice, the monkey that we sometimes have. What's your piece of advice at the moment for listeners on anything you like, really, in terms of helping people get through, maybe?
Jeez. Oh God, I don't know. It's hard for me to break something down away from sport, because I would have said, you know, just having complete faith in your preparation, but you can't really, you know, that's very rugby specific, isn't it?
I think that applies to anybody. I mean, like, that applies to my job, like, you know, making sure I'm prepared for everything. And then I think it means that you then trust in your training, right, and your preparation. And I think it can apply to so many different things.
Yeah, That's what I would say. That
Successful.
alongside, just making sure that you continue to enjoy it and love the thing that you're doing if you can, or try and find a way to, because everything else comes so much easier once you can do that. So I would say those two, if those work.
Yeah, I'll take them up. Thanks.
Cool.
So preparation, have faith in it, and make sure you enjoy what you do.
Yeah.
I think two really important things. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. We really enjoyed it, and we really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a clap out as well.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.